And I think one really good thing you do with me as a pair is every time we switch ends, you remind me of which way the wind's blowing, because otherwise...
I mainly do that for myself as well.
Oh, okay.
Because it's...
Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
You got it. Yeah.
It's not my first rodeo.
It's not your first rodeo, is it? I do like this background music though.
It's
kind of
nice,
like not a light lounge music. So Nikhil, we're here again, European Championships. The last time we had a podcast episode together was in Dubai. And actually a similar time, we just played Portugal. We lost in Dubai and we lost to Portugal yesterday. So I think in this episode, let's discuss like the European Championships and what the FIP do and how, what's the organisation like for these. Let's discuss what we've done this week in terms of, for Great Britain, our training, how the matches have gone and things like that. And then also let's talk about what makes a good pair. You and I have played a lot together, so I think it'd be really useful for listeners or viewers to talk about the pairings. So, first of all, how's your experience going?
Well, I think it's always a really fantastic week of the year. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's representing your country. You get to see the competitiveness of all the nations, all the best players in the world coming together. You also get to see the top World Padel Tour, the top Premier Padel players come in. So it's always fantastic for me, and to partner you in most of the matches is always a plus side.
And it's more and more competitive, isn't it? Every year, like, the players are getting better and better. All the teams, like we were watching the British girls play yesterday, or the other day, they played Estonia, and I mean, that is a team with great potential. And I mean, it's really impressive watching the level of all of the countries improve year on year, right?
Absolutely. Like 18 months ago when we played at the World Champs in Dubai, just from then to now you can see the massive improvement in levels, not just for certain countries but all round, and see how padel's growing. We've had tough matches this time against countries that we would have beaten easily last time, but just like you said, Estonia, our girls won 2-1. It's always been a close tie, and I mean, yesterday we've improved so much. We had a fantastic match against Portugal, losing in the third set, and so did our first pair. So could have gone either way, really, but it's everyone's improving, which is great.
And you and I, we've played quite a few of these. So how do you think because these are managed by the FIP, the International Padel Federation, and how do you think the actual tournament and the organisation has evolved over time?
Well, I do think it's improving. For example, the organisation in Dubai and Qatar and those countries is second to none. I think it's fantastic from the food and beverages to the transport to the venue and back. I think it's fantastic. Here in Sardinia, it's obviously a lovely location, but it has been not as well organised, I must say. If I have to say, the transport is a bit here and there. But
we were a bit spoiled in Dubai and Doha, aren't we?
True.
Doing those two, those are two nations that are really well set up for hospitality. I mean, you and I, we've been there lots and lots of times. They're also kind of comfortable putting budgets into a great event and making it a great event. And both of those, Doha and Dubai were fantastic, weren't they? Like really great experiences for all the players. This feels a little bit like the competitions were before those events, right? As a team of 8, we got 1 hour on one court to practice at the venue, as an example. But it's been a bit hit and miss in terms of organisation.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, if you're talking about padel is a new sport on the block. It's a trendier sport. Everyone's playing it, and it being, if we want it to be one of the best sports, it starts small things like that. Having an hour at the European Championships to prepare. And we're quite fortunate that we came a few days early, because I don't think many nations did that, but we came 4 days, 5 days earlier to prepare in these conditions, which I think has benefited us a lot. But having allocated 1 hour for 8 players, half an hour just to have a match is, I think that's not fantastic. But
we're seeing a lot of these clubs, like now we're at the Cagliari Tennis Club, and a bit like Doha and Dubai, and a lot of tennis clubs now, they're putting the paddle court on the tennis facility. And actually this one, it already had 3 paddle courts that were in one direction, and then it put the paddle courts on. I think it's a great setup to put a paddle court in the middle of the tennis court. You've got lots of run out space, you've got the seating around. I really like that setup and format, and it makes it feel like a big tournament, doesn't it? I mean, there's, I think, 8 courts, and they're well spaced out. There's you would say seating, but it's kind of like, you know, concrete blocks, but still, you know, some of the courts have really good seating. You know, I think it's a nice venue.
Yeah, I really like it. Like you said, being based on a tennis court, it gives you the space that you need for paddle, and I just love the openness, and it makes it feel like a professional tournament now with the boardings, and I think it's a massive improvement on what we had in 2021 in Marbella at the European Championships, where they were all crammed together, some were indoor, some were outdoor. But here I feel it's been a big improvement, and I do like the setup, being on each tennis court, so yeah.
Yeah, and so far in our European Championships, we've had our group stages, so we've played Switzerland, Hungary, Italy in our groups, and we came second in our group. We won the first two, we lost to Italy, and then Portugal yesterday was the quarterfinals. If we explain a little bit about how it works, and then, you know, let's talk about how we've done as a team. So, you know, for the European Championships, there's 4 groups of 4 players, 4 teams, sorry. So there's 16 in total. Top 2 go through to quarterfinals, the top 8 play off, bottom 2 go 9 through 16 to play off for there. How do you feel like as a team we've played, you know, throughout the group stages?
Well, I think we've played well. We've definitely grown as a team from the previous championships, but now that we've actually had a lot of changing, as you know, combinations and everything like that. But I think we played extremely well in our first match against Switzerland, especially the whole team. We came through in straight sets, and Hungary, same again. We played very well. Then coming up against one of the best nations in the world, Italy, we showed great fight. But I think now that we're like getting closer to the end of the week, we're now finding our level, as you say always. Like, we're improving, and now it's near the end of the week. But I think as a team, we've achieved qualification for the next European Championships, which is fantastic. And yeah, now we have a big game today against Holland, so we'll see how we get along there.
So coming here, obviously, you and I, we play a lot in the UK. Most of the time indoors, and then you travel a bit, you know, to Spain or to FIPs. But this week it's been pretty tough conditions. I mean, when we got here, it was like 35 degrees, and we were playing a club which, you know, as a practice club, which was super fast. And then this week, all of it's been quite windy. It's been very sunny, very hot, but also quite windy. And so I think it's taken a little bit of time to get used to those conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every game has been different. You've got different speeds of winds, the sun's in a different location, the court has been slightly different. So I think getting used to these conditions, what we did coming out early, is extremely important. But it's also really fascinating to see how the top players adapt to this kind of style, because when I'm playing, I'm like, how do you play when the wind's facing this way? Do you keep it down, or do you play higher lobs? And to see Spain and Portugal, how they adapt, is actually, I think I improved my game watching them.
Their accuracy with the lob in the wind is ridiculous. Like, it's almost like they go one end, they know where the wind is, they hit that lob so that it still lands like a foot or 2 feet from the back glass. And that's one thing I think we're improving during the week. But one thing at the beginning, well, definitely I struggled with, was like, you know, there was a strong wind, you're in the middle of the point, and it's remembering that, right, I need to hit into the wind now because I'm against the wind, and I need to hit this a bit lower and go a bit deeper, and then at the other end I want to hit a bit higher but a bit, you know, more trajectory up and down, and let the wind take it. It's tough to remember that in the heat of a point.
Absolutely. I think for me the lob is the most important shot. It gets you to the net, it changes the whole dynamic of the point. And I think one really good thing you do with me as a pair is every time we switch ends, you remind me of which way the wind's blowing, because otherwise sometimes, just like you said, in the heat of the point, you throw away a point, just think, oh no, and then you've wasted that one important point. And in European Championships, points are not easy to come by.
No.
So
I mainly do that for myself as well.
Oh, okay.
Because but it is, well, you change ends and it's almost like, right, now what we doing with that lob, and it almost having that conversation with your partner, it helps, doesn't it? Because you're both like, right, okay, we're with the wind now, so we play this type of shot. And one thing, another thing we started doing more is using our Chiquita a little bit more, you know, as the week, because because it's been hot conditions, it's been quite fast. And so we've almost got drawn into a faster game. But then as the competition gets stronger, like Italy, Portugal, and it'll be the same today, they are much better at dealing with those faster balls. And so it's using more chiquitas, using that lob to try and take the net, which is obviously where we enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's, you got to use your strengths in certain conditions where, for example, I don't have the most amazing smash, so I've really got to focus on playing to my strengths. But when we're playing against Portugal, like you said, their lobs are so precise, so close, and sometimes they don't lob with too much speed, so you can come off and hit a bit harder. Sometimes they use the height, so it comes and drops steep, so then you're forced to play another lob. And because they know you're going to play a lob, they're already 2 steps in the position to hit it. Yeah. And that's the difference as you go up in level and experience. So yeah, every detail that you don't think about in these matches, everything counts.
And it's funny, it's just something so small, isn't it? It's the same almost, you know, from your beginner to low intermediate or low intermediate to higher intermediate. It's a couple of mistakes here or there. Like, you know, we lost in 3 sets yesterday, Portugal, and it really was like a couple of short lobs or just the wrong shot choice at the end of a long rally, or making a mistake when we wouldn't normally make it. And it's those type of differences. We watch Spain and Portugal, and they don't make those mistakes. You know, they make you play 2, 3, 4 more balls than you're used to. And I find, particularly for me, because I'm not used to training at a high level or playing competition at the moment, most of my work is coaching, is that I always feel that I'm at my limit. Like yesterday, I felt like I was constantly trying to like strive for that limit.
Sure.
And so that's something that also to encourage players. I know everyone knows that to play at a higher level or to train with as high a level as you can to make yourself feel a bit more comfortable at that level, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yesterday was super tough, and I feel when you watch these, it's not quite clear how physically taxing it is until you're on the court, competing at that 4-all in the 3rd set or wherever it may be, because every time that they're putting a ball, for example, for a chiquita, you know they're coming in. So you've got to be able to play, you've got to stay low and play more specific shot off that. So I feel like training at like the highest level is amazing, but also being in that pressure situation, being in those matches changes a lot as well.
Yeah, because it's often, when we talk about fitness, it's being fit to make the right decisions, right? That's it. It's like the further we got in that match, and I could feel myself, like I still felt good and fit towards the end, but you know, a little bit of tiredness means you lose a little bit of concentration, makes you make one shorter volley or one shorter lob, and then you're in trouble. And that is where like trying to maintain that the whole way through is a real challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you make that half a short lob or whatever it may be, they then gain confidence, and it's like a domino effect, and you're like, how do I stop this? You've got to pick yourself back up and go again. But it's
what I love about paddle, though. It's so tactical and so mental. Like the higher the level you get to, the more mental and tactical and physical it becomes. I think, you know, more than tennis, I would say.
Absolutely. I mean, if it was a strength-based game, I wouldn't be any good at it. But unfortunately, that it's like you said, very tactical, very positional. It's all about putting the ball where your opponent can't attack the ball. I mean, having, for example, an amazing smash is great, but when they kind of null that out, when the lob is too good, and at a certain level, like when Portugal play against Spain, the lobs will be too good to finish every 3rd ball in a smash, for example. So drawing them in with a cheetah and then doing a quick lob, something like that, I think is
well,
great.
even these conditions with a little bit of wind, the sun, you hit a high lob, the smash is cancelled. Unless you hit it really short. Most of the time it's cancelled, and we're all playing these bandejas or ganchos or positional play, and therefore the rally is so long. And to be honest, I'm really enjoying competing. Like, I love competing, and I do it so rarely. Like, it's a real pleasure during this week.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's one of my favourite weeks of the year. You get to spend time with your teammates who are all training hard or whatever it may be and competing, and then you get to test yourself against these guys who play on all the tours. So it's a super like proud moment as well to put on your country's shirt. So yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
So this week in our monthly member challenge, we're actually extending the month of tactics. It's been tactics the focus, and so every month we put a challenge for our members where we put in videos, we give them challenges, and it's been about point challenges and what they should do within a point, like serving to the glass, first volley middle is an example of some of the stuff that we've been working on, and we'll extend that for 2 months now. So if people sign up now, they can get access to those challenges as a 7-day free trial, so I highly recommend that. But we've talked about the importance of tactics. Now let's talk about the importance of like chemistry as a pair. You and I, we've played loads together, so we obviously know each other very well. I feel very comfortable on the court with you. How important for you is that chemistry as a pair?
For me, I think it's more important than having the skill level or the physical ability, because it's a partnership. It's all about partnership. I think one of the reasons that me and you succeed as a pair is because we have strengths, and where I have weaknesses, you have strengths as well. So, for example, when it gets to a close moment in the match, this is where you excel, and that's where I'm a bit hesitant. So you'd come over to me and give me confidence, and you take lead, and I think that's fantastic. And I think one of both of our strengths is being really quick at the net, and I understand when you're going to play low, and I think you understand when I'm going to play low. So, for example, if we've actually had it a few times this tournament where they're about to do a second serve, which we know is a bit weak, and you've looked at me thinking, I'm going to play Chiquita here, and we've both closed the net, and it's been successful. So I think small things like that, it's a good way to see how a partnership works. But also, you could be playing with someone better than me, but if they're all about smashing every ball possible, it may not work. So I think it's not necessarily playing with the best player you can find, but the right player.
I think it's also playing, like you say, with the games in mind. Like, I know you love to come forward, so if I play my Chiquitas, I try and use like that angle down towards the cross fence or towards there, so I know that if you close, you can be more successful at what you do. Or we try and play that ball like into the corner to create a ball that we can then attack and really pressurize the net. And I think we're obviously talking at a more advanced level now, like this is a little bit higher, but because we've obviously had the benefit of we trained together, we've played loads of matches together. How do you think pairs can kind of create that chemistry if you're working either with a new player or someone maybe you haven't played that often with? How would you create that chemistry with a new partner?
Well, I think a good thing that we've done, for example, is once you've played a match and perhaps it's not gone the right way, if you are able to video it or get feedback from it, from whether it be a coach, a peer, or from video, and see what you can work on. I think that is, for me, the best thing that you could possibly do is learn from your mistakes and learn as a partnership how you can move forward and how you can improve.
Some of our members actually have come up this week and have said they sent in a video, like, because that's obviously what we do with our video analysis with our coaches. They send in their videos, we give the tactical and technical feedback. They've come up this week saying they've loved it, even not just their own, but watching others, like, because they have similar things and they recognize parts of their game in the videos that go in there. But this week we're fortunate that all the videos have been on stream, and so you and I, we've watched them back, I think, every match, and so it's almost watching that back as an objective spectator in a way, and not being too biased. And it's much easier watching it back than in the moment. In the moment, you might feel it's going one way, and then you watch it back and you're like, that is completely the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I absolutely hate watching the sets that we lose. I will watch the sets that we won over and over again for the next 3 years, but that's not how you're going to improve. It's watching the parts that go wrong and improving from that. You don't want to practice the things you're good at necessarily, but practice the things that need the work. So me watching our third set against Portugal, I can see that I dipped a little bit. My feet weren't moving as much as they were in the first and the second set, whether that be fatigue or loss of confidence. But now I know when we play again today or tomorrow, whenever it may be, I'm going to keep that up. That's one thing I'm going to focus on, and as a whole, I'll improve as a player.
Yeah, and I think you can learn so much from your losses. Like, you can grow so much from your losses, and it's just then being really clear about, like, what are you working on? Like, we're going out today, and we probably won't discuss it on here, but we will before we say, right, this is our focus, and it's based off things that could have gone better in previous matches, but also what we know we do well. So as it is Tactics Month, what would be your tactic that you would recommend to beginner players if they're playing indoors, for example, which most of our viewers are, even at this time in the summer? What would be your one beginner tactic for indoor?
I think if you are playing indoors where you may be restricted by the height of the ceiling a lot, if you are able to put a confident and nice low volley either into the corner or the middle of the glass, take that one step forward, because that is then forcing your opponent to pick up the ball, and I think they would not be able to play a great lob off a low ball. So you taking a step in closes the angles, puts more pressure on your opponent to play. They've got to play a good ball, otherwise the point's over. But if you're playing that volley and you're staying back, you're not progressing in the point. You're still, every shot you want to go up 10% until you've won the point. So I think playing a confident volley, taking half a step in, putting your opponent under pressure and playing an aggressive next shot is a good way to go up in the point.
And I'll give a tactic for a more advanced level. I think a good indoor tactic for the advanced level is obviously you don't have the really high lob, so I think that lob over the left shoulder of a player is super effective, and it can be a faster lob, but there's a big difference between hitting it over the non-dominant shoulder than the dominant shoulder, yeah, in terms of the vibra and the attacking shot.
Absolutely, because it also brings two players out of position. You've either got the forehand player having to come across to take it, which leaves the side open, or if the backhand player is coming to take it, then he leaves his side open. So, yeah.
And last bit from this week, what has been your main takeaway so far?
I think being able to adapt to the conditions as quickly as possible. I think for me that's super important. Every game's different. You never play a tournament at the same venue in a row. So I feel like being able to understand, adapt and learn to all the different surroundings, the feeling of the court and the conditions is super important.
And for me, the lob. I mean, for the lob is so important. As you go up in levels, it becomes more and more important how accurate you can be with it.
Absolutely.
Nikhil, thank you very much. An absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Andy.